Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Two Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. We're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Two Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Two Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. I am so excited today. I've got author, philanthropist, Salah Bachir with me. So welcome, Salah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk with you. I think you've got such an interesting story and background. So let's kind of start there. Introduce yourself, talk a little bit about, what it is you do and what your background's in.
Well, I was born in Lebanon, came to Canada when I was about 10 years old, and I worked in the film and video industry and publishing and a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've got this memoir out called First to Leave the Party, My Life with Ordinary People Who Happen to Be Famous.
I know. I love that title. It kind of cracks me up because, we all look at celebrities in a certain way, but when you get right down to it, they're just people.
Yeah, and they have a scripted role and they have a life after that. They have to step up and do everything else we have to do. And sometimes they don't even have the privacy to do it that we enjoy.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy. You're pretty famous yourself, so.
That's nice of you to say. I don't know that that's true, but appreciate it. So when you were growing up, did you do, were you involved in like high school theater or anything like that? Or did most of it happen after you graduated?
No, I mean, when I was growing up, I was involved in sports, and
yeah.
I played goalie in hockey and lacrosse, and I was a damn good quarterback. Not bad for a fat gay boy, right? It's like, but
hey,
yeah.
There's a place for you if you can throw a football.
Oh, I can throw a football. We had I had a huge client out here, and he saw a football, and he's like, ha ha ha, who plays football here? And I said, well, I do. And my husband said, our nephew throw it around, and it was pretty hot, and we have a huge yard, and he kept joking that I can't throw a football, so I had him go deep, and I threw it like a perfect spiral coming in, and he couldn't catch it, and it cut him on his forehead, and it was like, so it's like, I could wear a couple pearls, but I can still throw a football.
That's right. That's right. Well, and if you live in Canada, it's like a rule. You have to at least try hockey.
Yeah,
You have no
I
choice.
mean, I loved it though. I loved hockey, and I played goalie in both, and yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of,
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, no
you have to try and fit
aspiration
in.
to like act or anything, or was it more you were more the business side of the entertainment industry?
Well, I was a huge fan of. I got into video and an early home video at an early
Yeah.
stage of it, and then we got to meet all these huge stars and film people. And in the old days, when I had the best red magazines in Canada with Premiere and Videomania and Famous
Yeah.
Magazine. Yeah, and then so you did interviews and you'd meet people in the home video business, but you'd hold on to the interview for 6 months later, right? Because then the video release came out after the film release. But also they released these great films from like To Kill a Mockingbird, and
Yeah.
it's like, and suddenly you want to meet Gregory Peck, and it's like, hell yeah, you know. Or I mean, stories like that from the industry and getting to know people, and then Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward were at a theater in Toronto, which is like a couple of blocks from my apartment. And I said, "You ever want some privacy and come over?" And it's like, you say that to everybody, but they did come over.
That's
And
what's amazing is they actually came over.
they came over, and everybody who comes to Toronto wants to go to Niagara Falls, so they were booking a car and driver, and I said, "Well, I can take you." So stuff like that, and
See, that's smart because then you're giving them a reason to hang around.
yeah, but I mean, it's also they get, I'm interested in more what they do with their celebrity. I was
Yeah.
interested more in his charitable things. I'm not interested in their, I've
Well, I'm
worked
sure,
with guys
especially in Paul's
professionally.
case, he was probably willing to talk about that, and that's not bad. I mean, he was kind of famous for his charity endeavors.
Yes, incredible. I mean, the Newman's Foundation has raised over $500 million for different
Amazing.
charities. It's,
It kind of shows you just how much is possible out there.
that,
If we were all, whatever level of celebrity, if we were all kind of moving in the same direction and putting that hand out to help people, who knows what we could accomplish. I mean, Paul Newman's kind of shown that, he started that. I'm sure that he had no idea that it would end up making, $500 million for charity. That's incredible.
yeah. I mean, I think people, friends and other people had told him before that if you put your picture on a bottle of something, people are going to buy it.
Yeah.
And he didn't believe that. He didn't really believe that. But him and Joanne had gone to see a kids cancer camp called Hole in the Wall Camp. And they were so moved, and they started raising money for that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. What a great way to meet, people that I'm sure some of them you were a fan of.
Yeah, I mean, quite a few. I mean, you obviously grow up watching people, and then the roles on screen may not be the same as in real life, right? I mean, Jimmy Stewart didn't quite turn out to be like, you know, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington or anything
That's
like
right.
that. I mean, that's a role he played, and different people have to get away from the roles they're playing.
That's right. I had a
Yeah.
chance this past spring to moderate for William Shatner and his kind of one person show, which really all he needed me to do was to tee up some questions, and then he'd talk, for half an hour on one question. So it was pretty easy gig. But they asked me because I got to have dinner with him beforehand before he went on stage, and I said, off camera, he was the nicest guy, and he didn't have any ego. Most of his interaction questions were about me and my family. He was interested in what we did, that type of thing. But then as soon as he stepped on stage, I mean, that's William Shatner. It's a
Yeah,
whole different persona than him in private.
another Canadian, by the way,
That's right. Montreal, I think.
from Montreal.
Yeah. Well, so when did you decide, okay, some of this stuff that I've got to do and the people I've got to meet would make a pretty good book?
Well, I had some health issues. I had a kidney transplant, and during
Oh,
that,
okay.
I had got sepsis, and so they had to do
That's a
all this.
little more than some health issues. Those are pretty
That's a few
serious.
health issues, and I was in rehab, a few operations, and um, I started putting these posts or talking to people. I've been stories I've told for a long time, and then but I started posting about them during COVID and when I was in the hospital, just to lift people's spirit up, and so. And then everybody said it should be turned into a book. And when you're that close to death, you think you want something out there to
That's
be
right.
remembered as a story to my family and my friends as well,
Yeah.
and to share stories of these people who we've forgotten about.
Well, even at least if it were me, even if all I did was collect those stories for my family and friends, it'd be
Yeah,
worth it.
yeah, I agree, and that I mean that's the ambition of the book. It's not necessarily,
Yeah. Although I'll have to say that is one of the best book covers I've seen.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And what a fun thing, because I know you obviously had a photo shoot. That's pretty cool.
Well, we had a photo shoot on Super Bowl Sunday, so they had to be in the apartment by 12 and out by 4. And so, but I got a friend to do the makeup, and an old friend as well who had gone to Lebanon with me. And I said, Guntar Kravis, you have to come and do this. And I'm friends with very famous photographers and Greg Gorman and different people who wanted to
Yeah.
do the shot. And then in Flores, Casper Haydar said, I need roses behind me. And then, but you need all to be out by 4 because I'm getting out of this stuff. And and it was great. And so we just started pulling jewelry out, and I don't use, certain words, but I've got that look, don't mess with me kind of thing.
That's right. That's right. Well, and that hat is epic.
Thank you.
That's a good hat. Well, and I saw that you listed pronouns on the cover. I think that's the first time I've ever seen that.
Yeah, it's the first. I was surprised that I've never seen it, and there's a whole thing going on about people identifying and choose
Yeah.
how do they want to identify, and instead of lumping everybody together, I thought it's a simple gesture. It's huge but simple one.
Yeah.
And I've gotten emailed because sometimes I dress up a little bit, and sometimes people don't know whether Salah is a man or a woman, and I've gotten mail and emails addressed to Ms. Salah Bashir, even from people we give a ton of money to.
You think the beard would give it away, but maybe not.
Well, no, they haven't seen the beard. Yeah, that
Yeah,
beard there.
I mean it's a very simple gesture, but I noticed it right away because it's different from what you've seen on a book before. So good for you for thinking to
Thank you.
put it on there because yeah, we're kind of at that point where we're making progress and everybody's trying to adjust and make sure that we're treating each person with respect, but it's a process, takes some time. So those little reminders I think are really important. It helps us to remember, okay, let's make sure we address people the way they want to be addressed.
And in a lot of areas, both here and in the US, some areas are banning people choosing to identify how they
Yeah.
want to identify. And then, as if there's nothing else to do in the world but attack the.
Well, that's it. Why are we worried about what one individual person wants to be identified as? It's their choice. Just let them choose it.
Yeah, I mean,
We
I've
got bigger
always.
issues we got to worry about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about the book. So where'd the title come from? What's that mean? First to leave the party. Were you really the first to leave the party?
There was a lot of time I was the last to leave the party.
That's kind of what I thought.
So you learn to leave first. Every time I went, I had a friend and we'd take him everywhere, and it'd be the most amazing things going on. Friend Robbie, and he'd leave by 11 o'clock. It was like 11 o'clock. I have to open the shop the next day, and it would be, what do you like? Chaka Khan's coming on at midnight because he can't go now. And I became more admiring that process, especially. And then I have a really close friend, and he would say I have to go walk the dog, and he had to actually go walk his dog. But when we've stayed up later at parties, and people get more obnoxious and more drunk,
right.
and say and do things that, the next day we all blamed it on alcohol, or but so yeah, I earned the right to be the first to leave the
That's
party.
right. Well, nothing good happens after midnight. We all know that.
Nothing good you could remember.
That's right. Well, so the book it's got stories in there, I think, about Brando and Princess Di and Elizabeth Taylor and just about anybody you could think of that was big time in Hollywood or in music. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, some of them I went after and thought I wanted to meet. And Doris Day was one of those people. And
Oh yeah.
at the time, all you had to do was give money to her, a major amount of money to her animal foundation. But also, almost like a stalker with some of these people, like you seek out and
Okay, so we froze up for just a second. So kind of repeat that last thought.
well, I went after wanting to meet Doris Day. I mean, I had said that at a little cross game, that people are talking about what shows, was Mannix back then or Bonanza. And I said, the Doris Day show. And my coach was, my lacrosse coach, which I didn't know was gay later on, drove me home and said, no, you don't say that in public. But, and so I wanted to meet her, and she was a huge star, and she was forgotten in a lot of ways. I mean, she was like 9 out of 10 years, she was a Billboard leading musical star, and she was like four
Wow.
years in a row, she was the top box office star, and only
Yeah.
Shirley Temple had ever done that. And so,
Well,
but
I remember, I grew up in the 70s and stuff. Doris Day, pretty famous at that time.
yeah. And then what she did during the AIDS crisis was incredible. And when Rock Hudson, which most people forget about, Rock Hudson,
Yeah.
with AIDS in October 1985, died on October 2nd. But he came on her show when she was doing the animal show on the Christian Broadcast Network. She hugged him and kissed him. And that alone, I mean, same thing. Princess Diana did it a few years later, but ended a lot of stigma. Not ended, but it's still great way to helping people accept that it's not a disease that it's spread in the air or by touching a glass. And
Yeah.
then when he,
That's right.
yeah, so it's people like that I wanted to meet. And Brando I brought to my parents for a barbecue in the backyard.
What did they think of that? You show up with Marlon Brando.
Well, I mean, mom didn't really know who he was, but she always treated everybody I brought over. She'd make them tons of food, and we'd sit there. But they were filming The Freshman not far from where I grew up, in a little town north of Toronto called Rexdale.
Yeah.
And so, but the guy who was biggest then was Matthew Broderick. So Matthew Broderick and Marlon Brando in The Freshman, 1990. And so I go to interview Matthew Broderick, and there's Brando sitting there. So I strike up a conversation, and we become friends. And I take him around town as my Uncle George, or my cousin George. Sorry, my cousin George from Lebanon. I have an Uncle George as well. And everybody thinks there's a similarity. And there's a scene in The Freshman where he's actually skating, and everybody thinks it's me. I can send you a picture of it. Like, they thought I had subbed in for him because I played hockey, and so but
That's
yeah,
amazing. That's a great story. I mean, did
yeah,
you ever have no aspirations to try to get in front of the camera, do a little acting yourself?
is it too late? I could be the Wilford Brimley of my time.
It's not too late.
Well, all right. I'm looking for an agent. Call me.
I mean, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I would not have thought I'd be doing podcasting for a living, but here I am, and I love it. So
Great.
It's never too late, I don't think.
Well,
We all have to find our niche. Sometimes it takes a while.
I think I'd be a very funny talk show host. So I think that's,
I would
I,
watch that talk show.
I could give Graham Norton a run for his
That's
money,
right.
but
That's right. Why not? We need more talk shows like that. His show is just hilarious.
yeah.
Yeah, that's terrific. What about I saw you had a meeting with Ali at some point.
Well, Ali and Liberace at the same time. So let your head work around that a bit, and then I'll give
Amazing.
you a pause. But you have no idea where.
No,
No, so I was invited to the first WrestleMania. We were in the video business, so we had a video magazines and
well, that was
WrestleMania
probably early '80s, something like that.
85. I
Okay.
think it's 85, Madison Square Garden in New York. And so Ali, Billy Martin from the Yankees, coach of the Yankees, and
Yep.
Liberace. I think Liberace was a timekeeper or something. And I wasn't going to go, but it was like a free trip. Those old junkets where the studios paid for everything. And so it was a free trip to New York, and you go to the first WrestleMania, and you can have interviews, with Ali and Liberace. Or I worked my way around to getting interviews with Ali and Liberace, and so and that, yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. Did you get to talk to them at the same time? Were they there like
No, I had private meetings with each of them,
okay?
and I got to meet them long after. A friend of mine had toured with Liberace for quite a while, and you know,
I,
Barbara
I would
Streisand.
never. What's that?
Barbara Streisand
Yep.
opened for Liberace in Riviera in Las Vegas in 1963. And she opened for Phyllis Diller in 1960 in New York. And Phyllis Diller and Liberace each have a chapter in the book. And Streisand only shows up in the Omar Sharif chapter.
I mean, what an amazing concert to go to. Either
Yeah,
one.
yeah. I mean, I think it was amazing to be there and to have a chance and opportunity and to sit and talk to them.
I never would have pegged Liberace as a wrestling fan.
I think people do things for money. You'd be surprised.
I don't think I would.
And it's the audience. You've got Madison Square Garden, 17,000 people. So I think that's the whole spectacle of it.
Yeah. Well,
I
and that's
think
true. If you look at it that way, I mean, Liberace was a spectacle, and that's exactly what wrestling is. So it kind of fits that way.
it's theater, right?
Yeah.
On the grand scale.
Yeah, I remember those. Back in the '70s, you'd see Liberace would show up on variety shows and talk shows and all of that stuff. And I think we've kind of missed those days. I've said that to my wife several times. We need the variety shows to come back.
We used to get together and watch like Carol Burnett with my
Yeah.
family, and Red Skelton way back, and
Yep.
so it was and Lucy, of course. I mean, Lucy was
Of
always
course.
the best. Yeah.
Yeah. My dad was a big Red Skelton fan. Just absolutely him and Jimmy Durante, loved him back in the day.
Do you know Jimmy? Is this like a family show, or can I say stuff?
No, you can say stuff. We put a warning out there, so you're good.
Do you know what Jimmy Durante's quote about Doris Day was?
No.
I knew Doris Day before she was a virgin.
All right, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. How about the royals? Because I know you had some interactions with Princess Di, Princess Margaret. Talk about those a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I worked with a children's charity here for children with special needs and variety club, and we had a huge opening of an aquatic center with a pool for handicapped children. And Princess Margaret came to open it, and I was a kid in that crowd. Everybody else was, so they made me sit beside her, and we bonded over, and she was the first there kind of thing, I guess. And
Yeah.
for Harry, and she wanted, she saw the food and how bland it was, and she said, "Oh my God, you must have gotten the memo from the you know. She was a lot of fun, and it was kind of a break from all the duties. They were shuffling her around from you have to be here and you have to be there. And we went outside and had a cigarette together with a great big
Wow.
security guard staring at us. And she's like, "Want to go out for a cigarette?" And it's like, I didn't smoke. I didn't smoke cigarettes anyway, but but if Princess Margaret asked you, you go have a cigarette with her. And they gave it like beautiful flowers. And in a way, it's like, you're going to go back to a hotel full of flowers ready for you. But she was very lovely. She kneeled down and spoke to several of the kids and gave her publicly the bouquets he had given her, and which was really nice.
That's amazing.
Because most other people pretend they're taking them back to their hotel, right?
I mean, the interactions you've had in your lifetime is pretty spectacular.
Well, it's not. I mean, I think in a way it's the same way we have all friends and meet people, and it's in my work and your work or different people. Like you're going to a movie and a film, and you want to ask them something more than the publicist asks you to ask them. You want to ask them something not necessarily on script or and we also paid tribute to a lot of these people with lifetime achievement awards and
right
and galas and charities. So later in their careers, like Patricia Neal, who was in HUD and stuff like that and had the strokes, and Ginger Rogers, so careers like that. And then you stay with them for like a week, and you get little things. If like you're ever in New York, give me a call, and I'm in New York, do you want to have dinner? And most people had forgotten about them or dismissed them. And
right.
The Elizabeth Taylor story, she was filming with Carol Burnett in Toronto, and a film called Between Friends, and I had met her a few times and taken her to different things, and even taken barbecue chicken to her hotel. It was a certain type of barbecue chicken, but very down to earth, but people don't give her credit also.
Yeah.
Because she knew her art really, really well. Her father had been in an art gallery, owned an art gallery where Greta Garbo was one of his clients. She knew her jewelry really well, and she knew if you took a piece of jewelry and she wore it, like after, it would go way up in price. And she was in constant pain because she had so many operations. But when you go out in public, you have that 5-10 seconds where you have to be Elizabeth Taylor, or
right.
5 hours for her, but
yeah, I just it just boggles my mind, the people you've come in contact. Wait, I have to ask about Sean Connery.
Sean Connery?
Yeah.
Sean Connery. So we were on it's just an anecdote in the book. We were on a junket for the Hunt for Red October, and everybody's asking him all these questions. And the publicist tells you can't ask this or you can't ask that. And, and then we were part of the video press. And so we weren't supposed to ask about Bond, but somebody started, what's your favorite Bond movie? And it was all about Bond. And I was kind of just sitting there quietly. And he said, "Hey, what about you? You haven't asked me anything." And I said, "Well, I'm a big fan of your hairy chest." And so everybody's looking at me like, and I'm not really interested in some British spy movie, but I made a ton of money in the video industry. And so he was very funny, and he's like, "One, thank you. I'm very proud of my chest. And I too have made a lot of money from a British spy movie." And so I just wanted, so I just put it as an anecdote because years later, a friend saw him or saw a picture and took it to him and signed it. So it still hangs with, from Sean Connery, and with the hairy chest with his.
I love that. So he's getting all these questions about, his Bond roles and which one's his favorite, that type of thing. You bring up his hairy chest. I love that.
Just little anecdotes. And there's an anecdote of turning down Celine Dion
Oh,
Again, we had these great big galas and fundraisers for, hospitals and different causes and different, and so we always had entertainment. We had Tony Bennett one year, we had Phyllis Diller one year, Ella Fitzgerald, Eartha Kitt, Diane Carroll, Joan Rivers. I mean, we had everybody, and then um, the you get to know people through a lot. I mean, Ginger Rogers was in a wheelchair because she needed. But Celine Dion, so the entertainment that year, Sony Music said we have this young French singer from Quebec,
yeah.
and we can get her for you like for a reasonable price. And I said, we three of us met, and we said, our audience doesn't want to hear French songs. And so we turned down Celine Dion, but I became friends with her husband, Rene Angelil, who was also Lebanese, and there was that connection. And the funny part in the story that turns now the president of Sony Music, who works with Celine, is the same guy who was on my team when we turned her down like 40 years ago.
Really? That's
So
hilarious.
Like a little anecdote in the book. Yeah.
Well, I mean, at the time, you probably had no idea.
No.
He was going to turn into what she
That would be under the regret.
That's right. Well, it kind of brings up things, you got to be careful when you're dealing with musicians, actors, famous people, because you never know. You could be somebody that's doing something pretty minor, but 10 years down the road, they may be the famous person. You just never know.
Yeah. It was just more of an anecdote of I think for the time, the other person worked well and was very popular.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that you mentioned art. I know you're a art collector with that. How did you kind of get into that?
I've always loved art. I've always been involved in artistic things. I was around artists all my life. My husband's an artist, and New York in the 80s, and also you want to help friends. There's friends you want to mentor them and help them out, and it's a great I mean, it's been a great passion. Not some people might call it an addiction, but yeah. So I got to meet Warhol through that, and Keith Haring and other people in New York, and so. But it was a time like you just went to a gallery in New York, and these people, no one, I would have asked or accepted more free gifts had I known that Warhol was going to be Warhol.
Right. My wife paints, and she normally, because that's not what she does, in her regular job. She normally only paints if like a charity or somebody asks for her to donate a piece to auction off, that type of thing. But I've watched her over the years because I never really had an appreciation for art. But she would do something, she'd draw or paint something, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's amazing. I love it." And she's like, "Well, it's not done. It's not done." And then she goes back and she works on it some more. And I'm like, "That looks even better. It's amazing." She's like, "It's not done." And she keeps going back over it. Yeah. And by the end of it, it looks so much better than the original, where I was like, that one looks great. So I've kind of learned a little bit about painting, through her with that. And it's a lot more involved than what you would, if you don't paint, you don't realize how much with that. But I didn't realize there was so many layers that you could put down and just keep changing the painting.
Yeah, no, I mean, an artist also has a vision of everything, and you have no idea how they're going. It's not similar to anyone else. And my husband's an artist as well, like full-time artist. But I don't get to see him. I mean, he has to have privacy and go away and do his stuff in his
Does
studio.
he keep his work, or I'm guessing he sells it?
Yeah, there's a website called Jacob Yerex, YEREX.com, but we've also donated a ton of art to hospitals and universities, museums and galleries. And so, I mean, we have 3,000 pieces of art, and Jacob also does art. So I think it's better sometimes to get it out in public and have people see it and enjoy it. And if you spend time in hospitals or community centers, those walls need some freshening up. And
They
your
absolutely do.
wife
Yeah,
would
they can
agree
look
that,
kind of stark without
yeah,
painting them.
yeah, gives
Yeah,
people joy to go around and see them.
that's amazing. I have kind of gained that appreciation for artwork through my wife, and that's allowed me to kind of enjoy some of that stuff. And we've went back and you've done the immersions and stuff with Picasso and some of those, and Van Gogh, and those are pretty incredible to do. But where I struggle with her is that she'll do this stuff for charity, and I can't stand to not keep the art. So she's
Yeah.
she's putting it up for auction, and I'm going behind her and trying to sneakily buy it back. So I got away with that a couple of times, and then she figured out what I was doing, and
Well,
now I'm
that's
not allowed to
love.
do
That's
that.
got to be that's a sign of love, right? It's like
She's had a few pieces. I'm like, we're not selling those. Those are staying. I'm not letting those go. But for the most part, I just got to say, okay. I finally got her to make prints, because at least that way I could keep a version of it.
of that.
Yeah.
How long have you guys been married?
Well, so we came into the marriage. It was both of our second marriage, but we've been together now for 18 years, been married for 15. And we came in with 2 kids each. So we had that whole combining families things,
Like
but
the
now
Brady
we're
Bunch, the Brady
grandparents.
Bunch type thing, right?
That's exactly it. Now we're grandparents. We got 5 little ones that run around. And I'll say, grandparenting, as good as parenting is, grandparenting so much better.
My dad wanted to buy a bumper sticker he saw once somewhere, I think in the States, could have been Vegas or somewhere, that said, if I had known grandkids were so much fun, I would have had them first.
Yeah. You can send them home once they start getting tired or acting up.
Sure.
You just, okay, time to go home.
But we've been together 18 years as well, actually.
Oh, congratulations. That's amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's one of those that kind of like the 90s. It seems like it's been 30 years, but it also seems like it was yesterday. Yeah, I tell her that all the time. It's like, it seems like we've always been together, and it seems like we just got together. It's very weird.
Cool.
So I wanted to mention that you've got to be Grand Marshal at the Pride Parade a couple of times, which is pretty. I once would be amazing, but you've got to do it a couple of times.
I think I should go up for a third or something, right? 3 times lucky. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. We did floats, but we did little political things and as well, and activism. We had community, like we had the mayor on one of the floats, friends from the office, and we did floats when I had a company called Phamous Media, which was a media company with Viacom. We owned half, and so the staff there wanted to do a float. And so we always did floats before that, but I insisted on having a bar in the back, and you can't have a float without a bar in the back. With a cold, so our float was leaking as it was going down the street, but you can go in and have a daiquiri while you're waving to people.
That's not terrible.
It's not terrible, but if you're diabetic, you have to run off that float and find the nearest bathroom, and you're wearing all this shit, right? Good thing
Yeah, because those parades, it's not like they're over quick.
No. And it's usually the hottest day of the year they pick for it, right? It's just and it's slow because everybody's moving, but but we've had a lot of fun with them.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, sir, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time with me today. You gave us a little taste of some of the stories in the book. I can't wait to read the entire thing. Let's kind of go through that. Where can we find the book? If we want to purchase it, where do we go to?
And it's available on everywhere. Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Everybody has it online. The version was also read by Anne Marie MacDonald, who had her book "Fall on Your Knees," was one of Oprah's choices and
That's
stuff like
right.
that. But yeah, it's available everywhere, or you can go to salahbashir.com to find your local bookstore.
Yeah, and I wanted to tell you, you've got a very nice looking website. Is that something you do yourself, or do you have somebody do it for you?
No, I mean, my assistant does it for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they do a good job. Because
Yeah.
website, it's the everybody thinks the hard part is setting it up. It's not. It's maintaining it, making sure it's up to date.
That seems comes from experience or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's it. I couldn't do ours. My son takes care of ours. He does the hard stuff. But you got to have somebody to do it, because it's, website is, it's kind of one of those, it's living, breathing. You got to constantly be fooling with it.
You know, and I, if you didn't grow up with the technology, like I came to it late, and we all came to. I didn't even get to answer my own
Right.
emails till about 5 years ago.
Right.
No, I want to answer my own emails. Or 10 years ago, you couldn't answer your own phone, but. And people who grew up with it, like even sometimes my 10-year-old nephew, I'm having a problem. I said, no, here, do this.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's great. But
I always joke, because my parents think that I'm a technical expert.
yeah,
But which I am compared to them, but I don't know anything. So normally I have to call one of the kids to come and help. And I've kind of learned that the younger they are, the better they are with technology.
yeah, they've grown up with it all their lives.
Yeah.
That's all they know. There wasn't another system they adopted to.
That's what I always tell my parents. I was like, well, I can probably figure it out, but it's going to take a long time. I was like, let's call one of the kids.
I'm gonna Google it or call somebody.
That's it.
Yeah. Do we have the same parents?
It's very possible. And it's one of those that, I'll go over, I'll show them how to do it, and that'll last until I leave. And then it's already forgotten. Well, so before we wrap up, sir, let's go through. Well, let me ask you this: do you have plans to write any additional books?
Well, if you all buy 1 million copies and ask me 100 questions, of course.
Well, I think it's possible, because I know that just from hearing the stories you told, that's a good book. We're gonna need more, I think.
And it's a lot. It's about a lot of people. There's 54 chapters, and
Wow.
so you get a little bit about everybody, but you get me interspersed with everything. So it's a different way of telling a memoir. It's I don't know, it shines a light on others as well.
I love it. I love it. So let's go through your social media. You mentioned the website. Where else can we find you on social media?
I'm on Facebook as Salah Bachir, and LinkedIn, and Pasha_Bashir on Instagram.
Awesome. Yeah, pretty easy. When I put your name in, it came right up. So you were pretty easy to find. Apparently, there's not too many of you out there. Whereas if you put in Mike Wall, there's like 1 million of us.
Well, I think that's probably better for any debt collector coming after me. I think you win there.
You can keep busy for a little while you try to figure it out.
Yeah. Look, we only have one here.
Well, sir, you have to come back. We got to do this again. So anytime, just reach out. We'll get you back on.
I'd love to, and we can pick any topic you want.
Yeah, me too. That sounds amazing. Yeah, okay.
This is fun. Just let me know.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has just been a blast. I could talk all day about the different people you've interacted with, which is something that I love to do. That's part of the reason I wanted to podcast, was just to have those interactions. You've done that your entire life.
Well, I mean, if you want to send me an address, we'll send you some books, and love to come back.
Oh, terrific. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, hold on one second, sir. Salah Bachir, I hope you enjoyed that. He is absolutely one of the most interesting people I think I've come in contact with. It's just amazing. So he was basically working for one of the first Canadian video magazines, and used that kind of as a way to meet a lot of favorite people. And then throughout his career, his charity work and philanthropy has kind of kept him in that orbit, with a lot of famous people. Just an amazing individual. And I didn't mention, he's got like 5 honorary degrees, which will give you a little bit of an idea of what people think of him. Normally you don't get those for being a bad person. He's a pretty amazing individual. Please support his new book. So it's his memoir, First to Leave the Party: My Life with Ordinary People Who Happen to Be Famous. And we talked about a lot of them. We left a lot out. So please go check that book out. If you're a fan of stars from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, this is going to be the book for you. And he's such a kind of just a nice person, so the stories are all just very fun and nice and just entertaining stories. So please, check those out. I think it'll be worth your time. Appreciate you checking us out. Thank you so much. If this is your first time, we'd love to have your support. It's real easy to do. It's free. If you prefer to watch, our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please just subscribe. That'll help us so much. It's free. You can also help us. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, imdb.com, recently named us a top 100 podcast. There's 15 million podcasts out there. To get on a top 100 list, pretty amazing. We're definitely so appreciative. Can't believe it. So appreciative of that. So if you'd like to support us, you go to imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and that's it. All you got to do is bring the page up. I mean, feel free to look around, do whatever you'd like. But even if you just pull the page up, helps us out, and it's free. So that's easy ways to kind of support us. And we definitely are asking for your support. We're closing in on our 700th episode. I can't believe it. I can't believe we've been doing this for, it'll be 5 years this January. 700 is pretty good volume. We've met some amazing people, and you can find all of those, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. If we're doing anything in studio, if we're going on location, maybe to Toronto, if we're covering a convention, anything we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. So please check us out there. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Two Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. Not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. Those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free, and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to IMDb, imdb.com, cineplex.com. Look up the Two Opinionated podcast and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.